Okay, so let's talk Cinderella development cycle and the kind of challenges and pitfalls, right? So let's start out with the feminine perspective. So the feminine, this is called the sexual marketplace value chart. It just kind of charts preferences and power from men to women, like what women prefer, what men prefer, aggregates it by age. You see women peak at about 23, men are about 36 to 40. And so it just kind of shows the development and how they interrelate to each other, that kind of thing, and that you can kind of see the pitfalls, right? So you can consider the feminine default to be Cinderella. And she's very, I mean, everybody starts out extremely innocent, feminine, etc. You have life influences that come in and kind of antagonize you and test that innocence, test that power, potentially corrupt in different ways that you're fighting through, etc. And that's the stepsisters, right? It could be father causing damage, environmental, socialization to be, against your nature. But you can see as, that 23 emerges, the conflict between the natural self and the, you can call it karma, you can call it pain, internal pain, um, whatever occurs, whatever those challenges occurs that obscure your natural self, you kind of have to work through. So you have to take out the evil stepsisters, right? She pushes through them in order to get to the ball. So this is like internal game for the feminine, right? Whatever kind of corrupting influences that could make her a bad partner, um, it's her challenge to push through, right? So just assuming that she's taking the merge with the high power masculine, right? And so ideally, like she's exiting this or entering the ball or exiting the ball. This is probably why there's like a 12 a.m. you know uh, a time limit on the ball, right? So like that's an age limit mostly because as you start to move down here, your capacity to get higher power men reduces, and this is and this pain can also originate from failed relationships, right? And a lot of it does. So one of the traps, and I think there are acceleration points at 26 and 28. In other cultures, like above 28 is considered quote unquote throwaway women. It means like what is your value to the second marketplace? I mean, it's a challenge after that point. But say you're at 26 and and but you've dated men in your early 20s, right? So you've likely been able to gain a higher power of masculine than you can at 26, 28, and 30 and beyond. And so this is the nature of hypergamy and the problem they get into, like 26, 28 again. It's a deeper and deeper challenge because her goal is really to get the prince, right? But the problem is, um, and she may have had princes in her early 20s, right? But they don't want to move backwards in because it's status driven, right? So you want higher and higher status men. Um, if you keep on getting lower and lower status men, that's disturbing because you're thinking about the men you had up here, right, in the early 20s, or the men you could have had, the attention that you could have had. So you're comparing them against the men you can actually get, and they're not measuring up. So that's the challenge of like 26, 28. It's a deep challenge, right? The capacity to lower standards, but also just to accept that and to embody that, right? To make that work. Um, it's maybe hard from a masculine perspective because again, we can date a maid and marry up a maid. It's not an issue of status for us. To for the masculine, it's more of a sex size, right? So, um, can we accept a less attractive female, even if it means a higher maturity level, um, that kind of thing. So there's challenges here. So she really has to push through her own dark side. That's all the sisters are. Like, it's the feminine dark side. And in order to get to the ball, right? To really be able to see where you're at and find your high status man. Again, usually before 23, that would be ideal. You reach acceleration points, etc. And there's what's called an epiphany phase for the 28 to 32-year-olds right here, where you're looking at and say, well, I need to find a man. My clock is running out, right? I can see that my capacity at the same status I'm in before has changed. So there's increased urgency there, and that's a challenge for them as well. But as you move through the stepsisters, again, reduce the pain. Take care of your body, because these will be mirrors of what's going on with your internal state. So as you're burning through this energy, your capacity to attain, converge with the higher status man, it grows up. And your capacity to balance him as well and be balanced goes up as well. So this is actually an odd little two-step, right? So you have, in order to push through the stepsisters, it's a more masculine integration. In order to attract and counterbalance the high status man, you are going into your feminine. So you're going the opposite direction. You're trusting his masculine to make sure the sisters don't come back. That's the kind of point of partnership, right? And so this is like the 35 to 40-year-old already established, stabilizing her financially, stabilizing her emotionally, being the anchor, and trusting that. So she had to fight on her own through this to have the capacity to balance him and be balanced. And so it is fighting through here, integrating your masculine, reintegrating your feminine. And you're surrendering. So in order to become a queen, in order to get next power, the level power status, you surrender to the masculine, you surrender to the king to become the queen, right? Because if you're trusting your capacity, you could look back and say, hey, I got through so much internally. I got with my own masculine. Why don't I just take it from here and be my own separate entity? Why trust another external masculine? But really, he should be a mirror of the father, be a natural extension from the father. Like 35, I guess, is probably one of the first memories of your father, assuming that they had you at like 30 years old. I think that's a thing. It's an imprint. At any rate, it's a paradox, right? So you are embodying your masculine, surrendering your masculine here. But I mean, it is you're converged with him to the extent that you, and provided this is an honorable, clean, moral guy, which you can see if the stepsisters are reduced. You're surrendering to him in order to get more power, right? So at this point, like in a true relationship, he is your masculine, right? There's no real distinction between these two. In a real committed relationship, was maybe extremely rare at this point in human society, but it's not natural, right? The natural exchange is, okay, this is my masculine, right? I'm going to trust him. I'm going to learn from him. And then over time, her masculine gets stronger with age and she has more spectrum development. But trusting his masculine allows her to create her feminine, which heals his masculine, fuels him, allows it for even stronger expression. And the stronger his masculine expression, the stronger her feminine expression. So there's a synergy that happens between them until like they become well balanced in and of themselves. Like men will become more gentle with age. Women have the capacity to endure more pain with age. So that's the spectrum. Again, this gap is a good balance and good understanding. Men go through a different path with its own kind of strength and its own kind of weaknesses. But they're designed to counterbalance, right? They're designed to do that, but there's different pitfalls and traps. Hopefully that's better understood with a context like Cinderella. All right, take care.